Alright guys, welcome back to some more Warno. Today we're in the map editor and we're just going to be doing a quick tutorial slash kind of overview of the controls and how you can get started in it. So we're going to run through all the kind of controls to start, all these options up at the top and around on the screen, just so you can get a basic handle on what everything does, and then we'll dive into more detail onto the various sections of building, construction, and changing things. So let's start off up at File. Pretty self-explanatory, most of these. Open Scenario, you've got your different maps that you can open. At the top here you've got Challenge. These are all the operations currently in the game, so you can kind of have a look at those, change those up a bit if you'd like. Outgame with Showroom. This is the Armory. This is the map we're in at the moment. And then Skirmish. All our skirmish maps and all their different variants, all here for you to load up and change. And then the tutorials as well. Below that we've got Save. When you save your maps, they are placed into your replay folder when cloud saves are disabled. I can link or put it in the description below how to get to that specific folder, and that's where you'll find all your map files. If you want to reset them, you can just delete the map files out of there. Import, so this is for wanting to like import any files into the game. PNGs, I think it's DXCs, DXFs, and SVGs, files like that. I think you can bring textures and things in. There's a few kind of cool stuff to do there. Background image, you can bring in a large PNG background image to put underneath the map, so like satellite image, image like a town, anything like that, and you can kind of like look down on that and base your map off of the image below. So yeah, that's pretty handy. Export is not functional at the moment in the editor, but you've got three different things here: scenario, polygons, and the base building. Obviously without this being functional, it's kind of hard to tell exactly what these are, but I think this is basically what makes up one map. You have to export these different layers, but we'll see. And then of course exit. So moving on to edit. This is pretty self-explanatory. Undo, redo. Got your change history, cut, copy, paste, delete, all kind of normal stuff, and all the hotkeys are here for all of these things, so these are pretty good to learn. Reset selection is just deselecting whatever you've got selected, so that's pretty handy to note. And then we've got select all, selects all the items on the map, and then we've got a few different ones just below that: select all linked items with selection, and select all roads. So the hotkey for this linked in here is actually wrong. So Control-Shift-A doesn't do what it's supposed to do, but Control-A, when you've got something selected, will actually select all items which are the same as the item you've selected. So I've selected forest, Control-A selects all the other forests which are under the same name. And then finally we've got select all roads. Now just pick out all your roads. Below that we've got change pivot point. Interesting one. We can select an item down here. Go back up here. Change pivot point. Will that work for this one? There we go. It works for this one. Doesn't work for everything, but just changes the pivot point. I mean, I don't really know how useful that is. Maybe it's useful for other stuff later. Change selection filter. There's a few different types of items, and so that would just be changing which ones you can select. So these are like objects, or like I think they're called points. These are polylines, and I think it's polygons for these like kind of filler objects like that. But I'll go over that in more detail later. Yeah, you've got it up here. Selection filter, polygon, all, point, and polyline. Open selection, so here is a little tooltip, and this will tell you what you've got. Let me just go back to all selection, what you've got selected, it'll come up in this little kind of table here. Select a lot of things. You can do this. You can select which ones you want to keep highlighted, and that will deselect the others, or you can like remove the highlighted ones. This will also tell you what your filter is, and you can search in here as well. So if I search in forest, it comes up with multi-filler forest. This is a good search tool. I can search up roof. There you go. There's different roof items, etc. Like loads of stuff you can search up. This is really handy, and I usually have this open all the time, so I'll just keep that open there. You've got open transformation form. So here, when you've got an item selected, this gives you a bit more details on how you can move the object, rotate it, or scale it. And you can adjust that all in here on the different axes, which is a super handy one to have open all the time as well. Item properties. This is mainly used for like level design stuff, so like command zones, deployment zones, and it will kind of display more information about the object. And I'm hoping maybe this will work for more objects later on, but it doesn't right now. Open distance displayer. So this is just basically a measuring tool. It's got all the different ranges of the different weapon systems. You can create your own different ranges in here as well. You can adjust all the others, you can change the colours, do all sorts of stuff like that. But this is pretty handy for like figuring out how much distance you need between cover points and like engagement distances like that. Just turn that off. And then we got pick scenery descriptor from selection, and pick sub scenery descriptor from selection. These are kind of a little bit weird. I don't fully understand these yet, but I think this one is basically just like copy and pasting with more steps. It's kind of weird. And I think they might come in handy later. I'm not too sure. I haven't found a use for them yet. So if somebody knows, please let me know in the comments below what exactly these are used for. I'm not sure. Okay, so items. Starting off, we've got unit creation, very important tool. This is another one I have open all the time, and this is basically be where all your assets are that you're going to use. There's loads of stuff in here. There's a lot to search through and get into and kind of dissect how this works. You've got different types of items. You've got search, filters. There's a lot. I mean, almost 3,000 items in here. We'll go through this in more detail later, but this is very important to have, and that's just on the U hotkey. You can bring that up. Next up, we got the layer control, another very important tool. Use L to bring that one up, and I also have this one up pretty much all the time as well. So this one basically allows you to switch through your different layers and important aspects of the build of your map, and it selects what you can see and what you can't see. So you can turn like the terrain off, stuff like that, models, etc. Like all of this stuff you can change. There's loads going on here. We'll go over this in more detail again, but this is basically how you see the different elements of your map. Up next, we've got group, ungroup. Really simple stuff. You want to make a group of, you want to grab a group of objects, put them into one. Voila, you can move them all as one. Just undo those changes, and then it's Control U to ungroup, and then I click no for that. Not too sure what that does, but just ignore it. You got simplify. So simplify is about I think removing nodes. So we can go into an object like this forest, okay, and select that node and say, hey, we don't want that there. Let's use simplify, and it's gone. And then the next one on the list is insert nodes, so the opposite. So to do that, we use Control Q. You can insert another node back in. So Control W to take away, Control Q to insert. Now, a little bit more on that insert and take away. If you select an entire object, you can press Q and it will insert nodes in between all the other nodes, so you can add a bunch more at once, and it will undo that if you press W, basically Control W, like so. So that's handy if you want to make more points to better customize an item, basically. We've got subdivide here. So subdivide is a little bit more complicated. We're going to have to go look at polylines. Now I believe this works. You select two or more of the points along a polyline object, so this wall here, and then you use subdivide, so Control D. It will then disconnect those items. So this is one polyline now, which I can freely control, and so is this one. Whereas before, if I connect them again, they were just one item altogether. So this is useful if you have like very long roads and you actually just want to change a small section of the road. You can subdivide that bit and adjust it as you will. And then the other one there is fusion. Basically just does the opposite. It fuses some polylines together when you've selected the nodes. Flip horizontally, flip vertically. Don't really need to explain those. Snap nodes and add nodes on intersections. These are pretty handy, especially for roads. So snap nodes is basically a way that nodes can snap onto other nodes. Yeah, super simple to do. For this you can use Control-Shift-S if you want to, or down this bottom left you've got snap mode. So I've got no snap on at the moment, but you can have a grid snap. And you can change the different grids, the distance between all the different grids, etc. And object snap. So you can snap onto different objects on different nodes. So you can really connect stuff tightly together. So that's snap nodes. Snap nodes on intersection is basically where two polylines cross each other. So if I search in my unit creation and I get a road, I think it will have to be a smart line road or a Bezier road, I believe. And let's get a road. That's not really a road. Multi-line road. There you go, there's a road. So here is an intersection. And this should, voila, added an intersection. So that's how that's used basically. I think it's mainly just for roads at the moment, and hopefully it's more items in the future. Could work for fences, I haven't actually tested that yet. Next up we've got invert direction. This basically just changes direction on your polylines. Reinit Bezier. So this is linked to the other item below it as well, auto create Bezier. This is all about getting like curves on your lines basically. So Control B to do it, and it will naturally curve in between all your points, the lines. It doesn't really work for forests, but it works really nicely for roads as well. And then obviously Reinit Bezier is just to reset it so there's no curves on those lines. So Control B to do it, and then Control R to reset it. Got lock and unlock. Again, pretty self-explanatory. You just want to lock an item, so Control L. I can no longer adjust this item. Control Shift L unlocks it. Mutate. Mutate's quite an interesting one. You can select an item. You can get a comparable other item in your unit creation list. So let's say I want to change this forest to asphalt cracked. So got here, got this item selected. I want to go up, I want to mutate, Control Shift M, and that will change this forest directly over into whatever item I've selected here. I can switch it over to an agricultural one, Control Shift M, and that is switched over again. So pretty handy for quickly switching around like big areas of stuff or like multiple items at once. That's what mutate does. And then finally we got replay all FX. Basically any Okay, so on to scenery descriptors. So create new scenery descriptor. This allows you to create a new item such as like a smart line or a random pattern. So smart lines are kind of lines which are created as like kind of random patterns which you can put along stuff, and it'll give you different like sets of items along there to make things look a bit more natural. We can get bushes into field. Is that working? Border forest. There we go. And you can see they're kind of random. They're kind of like good for putting on the edges of stuff, or kind of making your map seem a bit more natural. And so that allows you to create those. A new one you can create / modify pattern. So that's if you've got one selected, you can adjust it, I believe. And then below that you can edit the individual elements, I think, of the smart line items, so like the individual models and whatever's made up into that smart line or pattern. And then reload deco set NDF just reloads all of the like assets and villa items and stuff on the map. I'm pretty vague with these ones. I've not used them much. I just kind of have a basic understanding of how those work. So maybe I can do a later tutorial or something where we dive into these into more detail. But yeah, that's my basic understanding of them at the moment. On to the camera. So with the camera, again, some of this stuff's pretty self-explanatory. Camera on the x-axis, camera on the y-axis. Top view, your different camera angles you can use or reset to. And then we've got switch to vectoral view. So this basically, it's not very impressive with the armory map, but this basically lets you see what's going on underneath all the textures and the models. So here you've got filigrasshole. It's different like gameplay elements basically, like what's in a forest cover and like all those sorts of things. Basically looking under the hood of the map. Got layer snap elements. These are basically items that you can kind of snap to, just like roads, buildings that you can get into, stuff like that. Switch that off and then focus on selected items. So let's select these. And we'll just zoom in and focus you in on them. Pretty self-explanatory. And then finally we have Audit. So problem analyzer. This basically will run through your map and see if there's any like issues of it actually being functional within the game. So like certain elements or like roads or things like that can't go through certain like other stuff that you've set down, or like buildings won't work in their positions, things like that. It'll just do for you. I don't think we've got any problems. Nope. Haven't used that too much either, especially because we can't export stuff at the moment, so it's not too handy. Level build item cost. This is all to do with like performance and stuff, and so something you kind of want to keep track of. I haven't really done this too much, but this is basically like the textures of all your items. You got sticker packs and stuff as well, and map buildings, Audit. So this is all just keeping track of like how many buildings you got on the map, how many different models, textures, everything like that, and it's all going to add up and it's going to impact the performance of your map in game. So this is kind of useful if you're having issues or building a really big map. So that's the top bar up here, done. Down in the bottom left, we've got translation, rotation, and scale. Which basically just changes your controls of what you can do on the map. There's no hotkey for these at the moment, I believe. No, they haven't put it in yet. But hopefully there will be one soon, and I can update this a bit to what that will be. But for now, you just have to click down there. And then obviously snap mode. And all your different stuff you can do with snap mode. And that is pretty much it for the basics of like all these tools. A few things for when you're like doing stuff around the map. So like for selecting items, you want to click on the nodes. Like if you want to move this node, you have to click on it first, and then right click and drag to adjust. If you don't click on it and you just, like let's say you have all this selected, this whole like forest selected, and you're like, oh, I want to move this node. If you right click on it, it will then start to curve this line instead. So you actually have to click on the node and then adjust it. You can shift click to select multiple stuff. That will then start moving things. You can select like a line you want. So you can use selection boxes and stuff like that to move other items. Another thing that people get caught up on how to actually place stuff, like things in here, it's control right click. So all you need to do, control right click, and you'll place the item. You can just keep holding that down. You can place items like that. Some items you have to complete a full loop to place in. I think that's mostly filler items. So we can go to filler here. Use this asphalt. As you can see, it's not placing it down just yet, so you need to fully complete the loop, and voila, it'll place it down. Obviously you can move this about by selecting it and then just right clicking and holding. You can go over each of these little individual controls if you just want it locked to one axis movement. And then that's pretty much it, I think, for like the basic overview of the controls. So let's leave it there for the moment with that little basic overview, and then we'll dive into more of the interesting stuff in each of these kind of little tools I've got open and different aspects of making the map.